again, everybody. Today we're going to do lesson 2 for the getting ready for 6th grade, and we're going today to be ordering fractions and decimals. So we're going to take it a little further from yesterday's lesson, and instead of just stating which one is greatest or least, we're going to actually list them in order. So in 5th grade, we were able to compare decimals and fractions, but I don't remember if we did them mixed together. I can't remember, but we did compare and order them. I'm so sorry. So we're going to start off today by looking at this Unlock the Problem. Jocelyn is playing tennis. Her serve takes a 97 hundredths of a second to reach her opponent. Dave's serve takes 4/5 of a second. Monica's serve takes 85 hundredths of a second. Order the 3 serves from shortest to the longest time. So the first most important thing that we have to do when we do these types of problems is identify whether or not we're going from least to greatest or greatest to least. So shortest to longest means we're going from least to greatest. So you always want to just take a second to identify, because it's the most common mistake. Kids accidentally order things the wrong way. So they're asking us over here, just, it's applicable to what I just said. You want to order the times from shortest to longest. So should we be reading the numbers on the number line from the left to the right or the right to left? So we're going from least to greatest, and we're going to go from the left to the right. Okay, because the smaller numbers are on the left. So to begin, what we're going to do is we're going to look at a number line just like we did yesterday, and we're going to locate where all the benchmarks are that we know, right? So we know, just like yesterday, 0.25 is a quarter, 0.5 is a half, 0.75 is 3/4, and then 1. So like we did yesterday, we are breaking things up by 5 hundredths, okay? So you don't have to list all this, but just as a reminder, this is 0.05, and then this is 0.1 or 0.10, 0.15, 0.2 or 0.20, and so on. I'll just keep labeling it just to remind everybody. So this is 0.3 or 0.30, 0.35, 0.40 or 0.4, 0.45, 0.5, 0.55, 0.6, 0.65, 0.7. So then that means that this is 0.75, this is 0.8 or 0.8. 0.85 is already labeled. 0.9, 0.95, and 1. Okay, sorry guys, Andrew just woke up, so I had to go say hi. Okay, so once we've labeled everything, we start looking to try to locate all these numbers. Now, of course, we can't always do it exactly the way that we split it up, but we do our best. So I always like to do the ones that I can actually find exactly first. So 0.85, I know it's written already, so it has a spot on the number line, so that's 0.85 or 85 hundredths. And then 4/5 of a second, remember, what we want to do is we want to convert it so that it has a 10 at the bottom. We want to see where the tenths are. So this is 8 tenths, right? So that's the same as 0.8, right? So that's here. And that's how we find where 4/5 is. And then finally, 0.97 or 97 hundredths, we know is going to be just a little bit past 95 hundredths. So it's not exact, but it's an approximate value, right? So now to label them from least to greatest, we just look from left to right. Okay, so then it would be 4/5, which is here, followed by 85 hundredths, and then finally 97 hundredths, okay? And that's how we're going to do this. So try to remember that you're not always going to be able to place things exactly. Sometimes you have to approximate a little bit, and that's okay, because what we're worrying about is listing them in order. It doesn't matter if they're in the exact perfect location, okay? All right, so now we're going to try this one. We're going to look at 6 3/100, 5 and 9/10, 5 and 3/4, and 6 and 2/10. We're from this time from greatest to least. So remember, first thing we want to do is make sure we know which way we're going, greatest to least. So when we look at our number line, we're going to look from the right to the left. Now, it's already been labeled for us, but I'm still going to walk you through it. If we're starting with 5 numbers, mixed numbers that begin with 5, and we're going up to 6, so we need to start at 5 and go a little bit past 6 too. So again, we've broken this all up into the 500s, 10, 20, 15, 20, 25, and so on. Okay. The 5.75 we know is the same as 5 and 3/4, right? So what we should do before we start is, this is 6 and 3/100, right? Now everything is labeled using decimals at the bottom, right? So we know that this one over here is going to be 6.05, right? So I don't have to know exactly where that is. I just know it's a little bit before 6.05. So 6.03 is just a little bit before there. Okay, so now we have two values. 5 and 9/10, that's the same as 5.9, right? Now you guys hopefully are seeing why I said this year how important it is to say your decimals and your fractions correctly, because it's easy to interchange them like this. Oh, 5 and 9/10, that's 5 and 9/10 written as a decimal. So I can find that here. So this is 0.75, this is 5.8, then this is 5.85, and then this is 5.9, which is 5 and 9/10. Okay, so here it is. Okay, so now we've gotten this one, this one, this one, and now we just need 6 and 2/10. So we were at 6.05, which is 5/100. Then this one is 6.1, 6.15, and then 6.2, 6 and 2/10 is here. Okay, so that's how we can locate everything. And then you just have to be careful, because it's going to be really tempting to go from least to greatest here. But make sure you start it. Hopefully you wrote an arrow or something to remind yourself, and you're going from greatest to least. So the greatest number here is 6 and 2/10. The only thing you want to do is make sure it's written the same way that we began, because sometimes we convert it. The next number is 6 and 3/100. Make sure that it was still written like that. 6 and 3/100. And then we have 5 and 9/10. So be careful, you wrote it as 5.9, but it was originally written 5 and 9/10 as a mixed number. So we want to write it the way it was originally. Finally, 5 and 3/4 or 5.75. Okay, so it was originally written as 5 and 3/4, so we want to write it that way. And that would be our answer. Okay, so can't turn my page. So we're going to do the share and show. Thankfully, they gave us a nice number line for this. Okay, and we're going to do our best here. So 3/5, before I do anything else, I'm going to turn that into tenths so that I can easily find this. So I'm going to multiply by 2. That gives me 6/10. Okay, so I know that 6/10 as a decimal is 0.6. That's the same thing. Okay, so I'm going to just write that here above it. 0.54. I know it's not going to be on here because I broke it up by 500ths, but I know it's going to be right before 55, right? And 3500ths is going to be on here. So all I need to do now is just label. So this is 0.05, 0.1, 0.15, 0.2, okay, 0.25, 0.3, 0.35, 0.4, 0.45, 0.5, 0.55, 0.6, 0.65, 0.7, 0.75, 0.8, 0.85, 0.9. Sorry guys, I'm going a little stir crazy. Okay, so now we can start labeling. So our 3/5 we know is equivalent to 6/10. So now that I've labeled, I can see my 6/10 is right here. So I'm going to mark this. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to write the original so that I don't forget 3/5. And right away I'm going to circle it so I don't lose its place. Or if you guys have highlighters or colored pencils or anything, you want to be fancy, go for it. Okay, so now I've got that one. Now I'm going to do my 54/100. So again, I don't know exactly where that is, but I do know it's going to be a little bit before 55/100. So it's going to be right about here. Okay, my 54/100 approximately here. And then 35/100. I have an exact spot for that because I labeled everything already, and here it is. Okay. And now we are going to look very carefully which way we're going. We're going from least to greatest. So that means from left to right. So we're going to see from here to here. This is the smallest number. So the smallest number is 35/100, followed by 54/100. And then our largest number is the 3/5, which was equivalent to 6/10. Ta-da! And that's it. Okay, so now let's try the last two here. You key, and we're going to use a number line again. Unfortunately, they didn't give us a number line, so we're going to make our own number line. I'm going to do my best here because there's not too much room, and I don't have an extra piece of paper. So you know what, I'm just going to draw my line here. I'm going to maximize the space, and I'm going to make my line in two. Okay, so I'm starting with 1 here, okay? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that's 1.25. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is 1.5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1.75. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is 2. Okay, so I know that the 1.25 is 1 1/4. This is 1 1/2, 1 3/4, and this is what we always want to label every time, okay? So, first things first, the 1 16/100, you want to see if you can, I'm so sorry, you want to see if you can reduce it at all to try to help yourself, or you can just, actually, no, sorry, I'm thinking of the wrong question here. I was thinking ahead of myself, guys. I'm so sorry. This is going to be one that we're comparing, so we know where 1.15 is going to be. It's just going to be right before that, right? 1 1/4 is given already, so I'm going to go ahead and label that first because it's right here. 1.37 is going to be another one where we're relating it close to 1.35. And then 1 1/10, this was the one I was going to say. We want to write it as a decimal. 1 1/10 will be 1.1. Okay, so now I'm going to know where that is very easily. So all I'm going to do now is I'm just going to label the middles here. So this is 1.05. This is 1.1. So that's why I wanted to make sure I put that here. So I know that my 1 1/10, which is the same as 1.1, is here. Okay, so I got that one. And then this is 1.15. And I'm kind of regretting making this so small because my 1.16 is going to just be right after that. Okay, 1.16, 16, can't speak today. And then the 1.37, this is 1.25, so this is 1.3, and then this is 1.35, so 1.37 is just going to be a little bit past that. Okay, and now you can see the order. So we're going, in this case, from greatest to least. So we're looking from the right to the left. So the largest number is 1 37/100, followed by 1 1/4, and then 1 16/100, and then 1 1/10. Okay, and that's my answer. Just make sure every time when you write this out that you are writing them as the original. So if you did convert it into a decimal or anything, make sure you write it the original way. Okay, so this lesson is taking a little bit longer than I thought, so we're not going to do all of them. Here's what I'm going to have you do. I'm going to have you do 3 and 4 right now. So you can pause, make your little number lines. I definitely suggest using a separate piece of paper since I kind of squished everything over here. And then these others you can do on your own, but I'm not going to include them in the lesson right now because it's starting to be a little bit too long. Okay, so go ahead and try these two, then unpause and check your answer. Okay, guys. So for number 3, what I did was I labeled what I knew first, and then I looked at, so let me show you what I did first. Okay, so I made my number line. I did 0.5, that's the one that stood out to me, which is 1/2. And 2/5, I know is the same as 4/10 or 0.4, so I know that was right here, 2/10. And then 0.878, again, can't exactly place it, but I know it's going to be a little bit after 0.75. And for the 5/8, if you guys don't remember how to change a, well, we didn't learn how to change it, so we're going to learn it next year. But all we have to do is compare in order to get an approximate placement. So what I did to try to help here was to say that I know the 5/8, I'm trying to figure out whether it's going to go in between 0.5 and 0.75 or it's going to be where it's going to be. So the 5/10 I know is 0.5, right? I know that that's smaller than 5/8. So that means my 5/8 is going to be greater than the 0.5. And then I just have to figure out if it's bigger than the 0.75. So I know 0.75 is equal to 3/4. 3/4 is definitely bigger than 5/8. So I know that my 5/8 is somewhere in the middle here. It doesn't have to be exact. All that matters is how you're listing it right now, okay? So from greatest to least, it was the 0.78, then the 5/8, then the 0.5, and then the 2/5. And for number 4, I did something similar again with one of these numbers. Okay, so I listed everything out like I always do, and 0.39 I knew was going to just be a little bit before 0.4 or 4/10. And my 1/2 is right there in the 0.5. My 6/10 is right there in the 0.6. And I just had to figure out my 2/3 where that was going to be. So I looked at 6/10 to see if it was going to be before or after. And I knew that 6/10 is less than 2/3. Okay, so that means that the 2/3 is going to be somewhere over here. It's going to be bigger. Okay, it's really close to 1, right? So you know it's going to be larger. Anyway, so from least to greatest, we listed them out. It was 39/100, then 1/2, 6/10, and 2/3. Okay, so that's going to be it for today because, like I said before, the lesson took a lot longer than I thought. I'm hoping that it's starting to make a little bit more sense. And when we get into 6th grade, you are going to be doing a lot more of this and we'll be doing more details. So don't worry too much, okay? It's just a sneak peek and that's it. Okay, guys, have fun.